I'd always wanted to go to Yellowstone. I don't just have this idea in my mind that that would be a wonderful place to see. And I was a high school teacher at the time, so I had plenty of time to go. So I went on a camping trip cross country, just me and my dog in a tent. And I was on the wrong road in Kentucky. I actually had gotten off at the wrong exit and was kind of circling back to find my campsite. And I saw this quilt on a barn. And I thought, well, what in the world is that? And being the not so shy person that I am, I pulled my car in and went into the door and asked the woman, why is there a quilt on your barn? And what she told me was they were trying to honor the women of farm communities. She said, you see a barn, you see a farm, and you think about a man working hard. But guess what? There's a woman there too, and she's working. So quilting has always been part of women's work. And then, of course, they were trying to honor the fact that quilters are artists by having these barn quilts. And then she told me they had something called a quilt trail that I could drive throughout the countryside, and they would be dotted with these barns with their quilts as I traveled. So I did that. I traveled their quilt trail that day and was just fascinated with these quilts. And I thought, well, I'll get a book about these because that was what you do. Well, no one had ever written a book about barn quilts. And I thought, I can't be the only person who wants to know about barn quilts. So that's how my story got started. So at the time, I contacted some folks in Kentucky where I had learned about the barn quilts, and they said, well, look, if you're going to write about barn quilts, you need to go to Donna Sue Groves. It's her story. She's going to be the one to tell the story, and you need to work with her. So Donna Sue shared with me her story. She had grown up in West Virginia, and she always had this love for barns. When traveling with her family across the countryside, her mom was a teacher. And instead of doing the license plate game like a lot of us may have done in the backseat of the car, they counted barns, Donna Sue and her brother. So they would, shout out, red barn, that's 10 points. Gray barn, oh, that one's 5 points. And if they saw one with an ad on it, like the meal pouch tobacco that you see so often, that would be a 50-point bonus. So she just loved barns, and she loved the idea of decorating barns. Well, as an adult, Donna Sue was divorced, her mom was widowed, and the two of them decided to buy some property together. And they picked out a non-working farm in Adams County in southern Ohio. And as a former farm, it did have a barn on it. But it was this very plain tobacco barn, a gray, the most nondescript barn you've ever imagined. And Donna Sue just had this kind of flash of inspiration. Her mother was an amazing quilter, someone who's had one-woman shows of her work, just someone who's very been celebrated with her quilting art, and both of her grandmothers were prolific quilters. She just looked at that barn and she said, Mom, we have bought the ugliest barn I've ever seen. I ought to dress it up by painting a quilt on it to honor you and my grandmothers and all the quilters. So that's kind of how this whole thing got started. But Donna Sue got busy. She worked for the Ohio Arts Council and had so many projects going on, and of course you'd never get back to your own project. So she kept talking about this to her friends, and kind of became a running joke. People would say, wait a minute, I thought you were going to paint that barn. Do you need to borrow a ladder? Little side jokes over the years. And she kept saying, I'm going to do this. Well, finally someone said to her, your mom's not getting any younger. You need to get that project going. But at this point, she'd talked to so many people in the community, and they thought it was a wonderful idea, and they embraced the idea of decorating their barns. So she thought, let's make this a community project. Good way to bring people to the small town, give our artists some opportunities for work, and show some pride in our community. So they started what they called the clothesline of quilts. They painted 20 barns. A lot of people think Donna Sue's barn was the first, but it was not, because they wanted the first one to be public, where people could actually see that barn out on a main highway. So they painted 20 barns. They started with an Ohio star. And believe it or not, that was in 2001. A lot of people think, oh, well, this thing goes back, decades, but 2001 was the first one. And from there, Donna Sue had been instrumental in developing a lot of the other quilt trails, so she gave me all of her notes, her contacts, and so on. And that's what set me out on the road to explore the quilt trail and to write about it.